This is a story of blood. A story of a strength so profound it can cross 200 years and find a new home in a different heart. It begins in a place of endings, in a time of impossible suffering, and it ends in a place of beginnings, in a time of impossible achievement. This is the story of two women who never met, but who share the same soul. It is held together by a single small object, a piece of wood carved into the shape of a bird, its features worn smooth by a century of desperate prayers and hopeful thumbs. It is a vessel of memory. It is a baton of resilience. The first hand that held it belonged to Amara. Her world was 1843, Georgia. Her world was not measured in hours, but in the distance between the crack of the whip and the setting of the sun. The sun in that place was not a gentle star. It was an orange furnace, an accomplice to the tyranny of the cotton fields. The air itself was a wet blanket, thick with the smell of damp earth, sweat, and the faint, sweet, sickly scent of the cotton blossoms that were their prison. Amara moved through this world with a quiet dignity that infuriated the overseers. She was a healer. While the master owned her body, he could not own her mind. Her knowledge was an unwritten library of ancient remedies, passed down from her grandmother, a woman who remembered the shores of Africa. In the bruised twilight, after the work bell had rung, Amara would slip into the cypress swamp. She knew the paths the dogs could not follow. She gathered roots to soothe fevers, leaves to pack wounds, and bark to ease the pain of childbirth. She was a silent observer, a keeper of names, a mender of bodies, and a protector of spirits. Her strength was not in noise. It was in the relentless, quiet act of holding her community together, one life at a time. Her family was her sky, her mother whose eyes held the permanent shadow of loss, and her brother, Kofi. Kofi was the fire to her earth. He was laughter in a place where joy was treason. He was defiance in a body that was meant to be broken. He was the one who carved the bird. He had found a piece of storm-felled cypress, and in stolen moments over many weeks, he had breathed life into the wood with a stolen knife. It was a promise of a future, a symbol of the flight they all dreamed of. He gave it to Amara, a secret bond between them. The day the world ended was a Tuesday. The air was still heavy with the promise of a storm that would not break. They were called from the fields early. The auction block stood in the center of the yard, a stark platform of raw, splintered wood. The air smelled of whiskey, sweat, and the cheap tobacco of the buyers who had come from neighboring counties. The auctioneer's voice was a rhythmic, booming chant of possession. Amara watched, her heart a cold stone in her chest, as Kofi was pushed forward. She watched them inspect him, watched them open his mouth to check his teeth, watched them feel his muscles like he was a prized bull. She saw the calculation in their eyes, the casual cruelty of commerce. Kofi's eyes found hers. He did not beg, he did not plead. His defiance was in the straightness of his spine. The gavel fell. The sound was sharp, final, like a bone breaking. He was sold south to the sugar plantations, a place from which no one returned. The separation was not a sound, it was a void. It was the tearing of a tapestry. Amara felt a part of her soul extinguish. She watched him chained to the others, a coffle of ghosts. He looked back one last time, his gaze a silent promise, survive. Then he was gone, swallowed by the dust of the road. Amara did not die that day. Her grief was a cold, hard stone, but she built a fortress around it. She worked the fields, but she was no longer there. She was somewhere else, a place in her mind they could not touch. She transformed her agony into a shield. She healed her people with a new ferocity. She kept the stories alive. She endured the humiliation, the degradation, the endless soul-crushing labor of a life that was not a life. She survived. And in the dark, by the light of a dying ember, she pressed the small wooden bird into her daughter's hand. She told her the story of Kofi. She made her promise to tell her own children. The story and the bird were passed down, a mother to a daughter to a granddaughter, an heirloom of sorrow and strength. That strength did not die in the Georgia clay. It did not end with emancipation. It flowed, a subterranean river of resilience, moving unseen through the generations. It survived the fire of Jim Crow. It survived the segregation. It survived the dogs and the water cannons of the civil rights struggle. It pushed. It endured. It waited. And now that river surfaces in a different world. A world of glass and steel, of humming computers and sterile air. It surfaces in Dr. Elara Vance. Elara is Amara's great-great-great-granddaughter. She is a brilliant cellular biologist, a woman on the verge of a discovery that could change medicine. She is Amara's polar opposite, and her perfect mirror. Her world is not the cotton field, but the laboratory. Her battle is not against the whip, but against the invisible, crushing weight of systemic doubt. The boardroom is quiet, elegant. It is a different kind of violence. A violence of smiles and politeness, and the soft patronizing tone of dismissal. Elara is an anomaly in this world. A disruption to their comfortable narrative. When she speaks, her voice is clear. Her data irrefutable. They call her passionate, when a man would be called driven. They call her articulate, as if it were a miracle. They listen, but they do not hear. She works 3 times as hard. She is twice as qualified. She is perpetually underestimated. This is the modern auction block. Her worth is constantly being appraised, and always found wanting, not for lack of brilliance, but for reasons no one will say aloud. The rejection comes not with a gavel, but in a polite email from the funding committee. Her project, the culmination of 5 years of her life, is deemed too ambitious, not a secure investment. It is a code. It means she is not a secure investment. That night she sits in her car in the parking garage, the rain blurring the city lights into a watercolor of defeat. A profound crushing weariness settles over her. The exhaustion of a lifetime of fighting. The exhaustion of carrying an invisible burden. She drives home to her sterile, quiet apartment. She feels broken. She sees the bird. It sits on her bookshelf, a strange, primitive object among her medical textbooks. She picks it up. It is small. It is simple. It is unbreakable. She touches the smooth wood, and a jolt passes through her. It is not a memory. It is a presence. She feels the heat of the Georgia sun. She feels the suffocating humidity. She sees Kofi's eyes, burning with a defiance that cost him everything. She feels Amara's heart break, and then forge itself into steel. Amara endured the unendurable. Kofi faced the void with a straight spine. They survived hell. Elara's spine straightens. Her exhaustion does not vanish, but it is joined by something else. Rage. A cold, clear, magnificent rage. This is not just her fight. It is Amara's. It is Kofi's. She is no longer asking for a seat at their table. She is building her own. Her anger becomes fuel. Her grief becomes focus. She works with a new terrifying intensity. She makes the endless phone calls. She endures the patronizing refusals. She writes and rewrites her proposals. She finds the others. The brilliant minds also left in the margins, the innovators of color, the women, the dreamers deemed too ambitious. Her new team is a mosaic of the overlooked. They work out of a cramped rented lab. They are fueled by coffee, conviction, and the collective desire to prove the old world wrong. They are not just scientists. They are avengers. The breakthrough, when it comes, is not a heroic moment. It is a siege. A relentless, grueling, brilliant assault on the problem, and they win. 16 months later, Elara stands on a global stage. The lights are blinding. She is holding a prestigious award, the highest honor in her field. Her discovery is revolutionary. It will save millions of lives. She looks out at the audience, at the rows of faces, at the very people who dismissed her. She is not just a doctor. She is a consequence. She is the harvest of Amara's impossible hope. She is the success story that was never supposed to be written. She is the politician they never allowed to vote. She is the artist they never allowed to create. She is the scientist they never allowed to read. She is the dream Kofi carved into a piece of wood. Her victory is not just her own. It is the vindication of a legacy. The chains of the past were broken. Not by forgetting, but by forging them into a key.